Alright, and we are recording. Alright, this is going to be a quick video. Well, not too quick. I got about 15 minutes to do this, and we're going to be building an X79 system here. I hope it shows up on camera alright. Yeah, we're doing a build. I already assembled a lot of the little parts, but there's still going to be a lot that we can do on the camera together here. This here is the Atermiter X79 motherboard. I've put I believe it's an E5 2650 V2 in the motherboard already, got that set up, and I bought myself one of these nice cheap deep cool coolers. And yes, the motherboard is from AliExpress, and so is the CPU. And yeah, we will be adding about 16 or 32 gigabytes of memory. The case I'm going to be using for this build is the Deep Cool Matrix M30, I believe. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a nice tiny case. I already took the back panel off and the front panel off, and without further ado, we'll get started assembling. With the X79 motherboard, whatever motherboard you have, you're probably going to have an I/O shield. And yeah, I'm just making sure everything comes up on camera here. But yeah, this is not going to be a super pretty video, but I haven't made one in a couple days, and I've never done a build video. So hopefully you guys can learn something from this, and hopefully it's useful. But yeah, first things first, we're going to want to get the I/O shield in the back of the case. That's super simple. All you do is you make sure that this part here is lined up with the back of the case, so that when the motherboard goes in, everything is set up. One thing you might want to do first, of course, is bend back this little lip here. This might be out of the shot, so let me turn it there. There you go. So basically, when I'm putting it in, I just want the back ports to be against the back of the case here. It's just super simple. You can look at any picture of the PC and how it goes in, and then you just kind of work on getting it in there, because it can be a little challenging. You will know it's in once it's kind of like snapped in place and stuff, but this is basically, I'm going to go over everything that I basically do to get the system ready. You can hear it popping into place there. And yeah, there we go. I think the back I/O shield is in place now. The next thing that we want to do is, because I'm going to be installing a graphics card in the system, I will need to remove, this thing's popping out of place. I'm going to need to remove one or two of these back panels. I've actually just remembered to do this. In most builds, I always wait till the end to remove these back slits here, but you're going to want to do this like basically before you build in the motherboard. You can set the motherboard inside the chassis to figure out which slots your graphics card is going to go into. I already know it's the first two slots because it's a tiny motherboard, and just the position of everything. I've built 3 of these systems already. This will be my 4th in this case, and yeah, alright, one part is already out because it was just held in place by the screws. But then the second thing, it's super handy to take this out before you put the motherboard in, because otherwise, trust me, it's going to be hard to bend it off when you're inside the case working, and you don't want anything knocking parts by accident off, like your motherboard and stuff. So now that that's done, you're going to want to, I guess, we'll start by laying it flat and get the standoff. Actually, no, before we do standoffs, the case does come with one fan in the back there. I think you can see this, but what we're going to need to do is add a front fan here. And the way to take the front panel off, I like to use a little screwdriver. All we're going to be doing is kind of getting it underneath the case here. You have to be really careful not to bend anything, but this is just how I do it. Pop it out, just pop it. Kind of, you just pressure it a little bit. If you don't have a screwdriver, you can take like a butter knife or something. That'll do just as well. So I'm going to get this. Yeah, this side's a little bit more complicated. The key is you don't want to damage the case at all when popping the front panel off. So you just want to be as careful as possible, because this is going to be your PC after all. So there, now that the front panel's off, you're not going to be able to, well, actually we can remove it there, but now you can see we kind of have room here. If we want, we can install 2 fans. I'm just going to be installing 1 for the time being here. And yeah, this is where if you do have a hard drive that you want to mount in the system, you kind of want to do it now. So that's the thing with system building. It's not always as straightforward as just put the motherboard in. But I'll come back to doing the hard drive later. I'm just doing this for just for the video here. But otherwise, yeah, I would put like a 500 gig hard drive in there. Yeah, and then you just pull out your screws from whatever is included with the case. And we're going to be using these 4 longer screws. You can't see, I'm out of the shot, but using these 4 longer screws. I've got this really basic It's not even an RGB fan. It's just a light up fan we're going to be using here. And I'm going to grab my screwdriver and we're just going to get this all screwed in here. Yeah, hopefully we don't run out of recording time. But yeah, these are things that you can prepare ahead of time before building or doing the whole system build. It's kind of like get your fan in place, take out the back I/O shield, or put in the back I/O shield, I mean. Take out the PCIe covers, or the ones that you know you're not going to be using. Like those are things that, from experience, you can learn, like, okay, I'm not going to need that when I'm actually doing my build and stuff, so you do that ahead of time so that you don't interfere with any other parts or components. Let's get this all screwed in here. They don't need to be too tight, but yeah, I guess you want them against the case, but there you go. So if you guys have any questions throughout this video, go into the YouTube comment section, drop me a comment, and I'll get back to you. But yeah, this is just some sort of video to put on my channel because I don't really have anything at the moment. So yeah, there we go. We got one front fan here. In some builds, I have added a second fan that you put on the inside. It's ideal because that would add a lot more airflow in a tiny case like this, because honestly, you're not going to be moving a ton of air into the case through the front here. Like, it's really not ideal. So yeah, you would want to add a secondary fan there. And boy, I think we might actually do that. So I'm just going to pause and I'll come right back with another fan. Alright, I got the fan. I was also kind of thinking about what I'd want to do for the build, but yeah, so what we're going to be doing now is screwing on this additional fan. You're going to have to put it on the inside, make sure that the intake is blowing into the fan. And again, my angle's not great here, and boy is it loud. But yeah, you're just going to have to get I don't know if the case includes these kind of screws here. They're just fan mounting screws. They're a little bit different. You notice I had to take the other fan off to make room, so I did that off camera here. But yeah, I don't know how the video is going to turn out, but hopefully it'll be interesting, and hopefully it'll actually help some of you guys when you're looking to build a build. A lot of it's straightforward, like it's not too complicated. Yeah, it's really not that complicated. The biggest thing is just putting your CPU in the motherboard. That's not too hard. You just close it easily. Just cover the whole CPU in thermal compound. That's pretty simple. Like, there's a lot of tutorials on those little minor details. I only have 2 screws. I'm only going to use 2 screws. That's plenty for a fan. It's not going anywhere. And yeah, now I'm going to quickly pause, put this back on, and I'll be right back. Alright, I got the 2 fans in place, and just so you kind of understand working with this Deep Cool Matrix 30, this first fan here really, it's not going to give you much airflow at all, and it's not great at all for that. If you want airflow, this secondary fan here installed underneath on the inside of the case will do a lot better job. So if you are going to be putting a fan in one of 2 places, I would recommend put it in the front on the inside here instead of here. It'll help a lot with airflow and especially cooling your graphics card and stuff like that. So yeah, all I'm going to do now is close up the case. And before I do that quickly, if you are going to be mounting hard drives, you can see there's a little slit here. I don't know if you can actually pick it up on camera, but yeah, you're going to need, you may have to remove this one fan to screw in some of your drives, but for this tutorial here, or this basic tag along video here, I'm not going to be doing that. But if you are wondering how to attach them, yeah, you will have to remove the front cover, and to do that, use something just to pry the front off very carefully. Don't damage the paint, because it's a nice-ish case, and yeah, when you're on a budget, you're on a budget. You want it to look as nice as possible. I'm just moving some screws down here so we can continue assembling our case. The next thing that we're going to be doing now, that we have the front panel, actually, yeah, we got the front I/O shield installed and stuff, is to get the proper standoffs in place. It looks like I might not actually have to do anything here because it looks like we're all set. The way you can double check that your standoffs are done correctly is by taking your motherboard here and just setting it in the case carefully. Yeah, I believe actually we're good to go. One thing you may want to do is, when there are flaps on that I/O shield, you might want to bend them up a little bit more so that it's a little bit easier to get your motherboard in place. Normally, I would just screw it in and say it's a good day, but because, I don't know why, but with this Atermiter board, they put the front audio right here, right beside this actual audio thing. So to actually get access to it from the front panel, I generally run the wire underneath and bend it right through the motherboard here in the case. So that's exactly what I'm going to do, is get the audio port from the back of the case routed for the back of the motherboard or something. it's kind of a weird system. So that's how I generally run the cable. It's just behind the motherboard here. So I've got my audio cable, and I'm gonna have to just bend it around the motherboard. It's like, yeah, with some of these motherboards, are not, because they're custom made in China. They're tiny. The parts, like, they're trying to save money everywhere. Obviously they work, so I'm not complaining at all. But you just have to work around it and kind of make it work for your case and deal with your cable management. And generally, for the back fan, I would just plug it into the motherboard. But for the same kind of sake, I'm going to be tucking it behind the motherboard and just connecting it with the Molex pin. Because as you can see here, there is no fan pin, only for the CPU and stuff. And then there's one at the bottom, but I'm going to use that for one of my other fans in the system. So yeah, now that I've got those two cables there, I'm going to grab the audio cable as well as the fan cable, and we're going to kind of find a way to put it in here. This is like a little bit tedious because you need the cables to be in the right spot, the right length. So what I'll do is I'll get that audio cable put on now. Yes, you want to be careful when putting your motherboard in a system, but like don't worry. Like, you're not gonna, like, unless you're really rough and stuff, you're not gonna break anything. The key is just to be very careful and not to put a lot of pressure on the parts. All right, we're just getting our, gotta get it in the I/O shield. Yeah, perfect. There we go. That is actually the easiest it's ever gone for me. Now that that's in place, you're gonna grab these tiny screws here. Let me show you on camera what they look like. They have a little head there. Yeah, you should just know that these are the screws that fit in. Let me just get this to focus. It's not focusing on my hand. That's terrible. But anyways, it's this screw here has a little lip around the edge, and that's for the motherboard. So what I'm going to do is quickly screw all 6 of those screws in. I recommend get your CPU cooler and all that on before you install your motherboard and stuff, just because if you don't have a lot of room in the case, it's handy just to have that taken care of first. If you're going to be building with a normal ATX motherboard in this Deepcool Matrix 30 case, you just want to be mindful about how you will route your 4-pin or 8-pin PCI, what is it called, your 4-pin or 8-pin CPU power, because in this case, in this motherboard here, this is not standard. This is a custom Chinese motherboard, so it's on the side here. Makes it really easy to connect your power and stuff, but on a normal motherboard, it would be down in this, or in the top left-hand corner there. So yeah, I kind of like this design for the Chinese motherboards. They're small. You get to use the old server CPUs, so it's kind of a neat combination to have, and I really like them. Especially because they're so small. You can build like mini ATX builds. And with this X79 series, that means you can get like an old 8-core CPU. If it's a V2, like this one here, the E5-2650 V2, it doesn't put off a lot of heat, so you can be kind of more, you don't need a humongous CPU cooler. This CPU cooler here, I think the CPU at most, 8 cores, 16 threads, will run at about 50 degrees Celsius. And when you have the GPU running, maybe it's like 54 degrees or something. Like, it stays really cool. I don't even know if it gets that hot. So when I'm playing Fortnite, or if I play any other games, or I'm streaming, like, it might be in the 40s even. Like, obviously it's cold where I am, like really cold, so that helps keep everything cool. But yeah, just getting those screwed in. I hope we don't run out of recording time, but it's really possible. So yeah, now that you have all 4 screws or 6 screws put in, it'd be a good time. You can put your memory slots in here. Otherwise, we're going to get the power supply. So I'll be right back at the power supply, and I'll show you how to install that. Alright, for installing the power supply, some cases like this Deepcool Matrix 30, you can mount it upside down, but because we are going to be putting in just a graphics card and it's not a blower style, we're going to want to, sorry for all that noise, we're going to want to make use of the airflow that the power supply itself provides. Yes, you're going to be sucking in heat onto the power supply, but it's going to play a big crucial role in keeping the airflow moving in a small case like this. So super simple here. You just line it up with the back, grab the 4 screws that are included with the power supply. If you don't know where they are, look in the box, look underneath the lid of the box. Sometimes they're glued or not glued, they're stuck on there with tape. For example, this one here was stuck on with tape, so I just quickly grabbed that. And yeah, I am using a 500, there we go. Yeah, I'm using a 500 watt power supply for this build. I have no idea where I dropped that screw. But yeah, I'm using a 500 watt power supply. I'll get that screw in a sec. Which is perfect. It allows you to use an RX 580, RX 570 as well. It gives you that room to upgrade in the future, and that is, like, 500 watts is plenty, especially for the V2 of the 8-core CPU there. I think you might be able to just scrape, or you'd be putting like a full load on a 400 watt power supply, because I know from the wall I was drawing about, just make sure I got my screws lined up here. I know from the wall I was drawing close to about 365, 380, I think about 365 watts when I had an RX 580 paired with this 8-core processor. I think it can get close to 400 from the wall, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, 500 watts easily gets it done. As well, it gives you that room, yes, to upgrade in the future. You can pair like a GTX 1070 with this system and it'll play just fine. So those are cool options to have. And I think the best thing is, like, you get like a nice budget power supply, like an EVGA 500 watt, or what are those, thermal take 500 watts. Also, a quick note, with the budget power supplies, you need to understand, just because it's listed as a 500 watt power supply doesn't mean you have 500 watts on the 12 volt rail. This one here, for example, only gives you like 450. So we're really working with 450 watts on the 12 volt rail. And that's just something really important to know, so that you don't think like you compare an R9 290 or something crazy with that. Yeah, these are all kind of ketchup and mustard. They do have like a black sleeving. It's not really good. I'm going to warn you guys, we're going to run out of recording space soon, so if it does cut off, I do apologize, and I will hopefully have to edit the video. But yeah, all you're going to do is route the cables through the back. Yeah, this is not a great camera angle. I'll be right back after I route the cables. Alright, for the fun part here of cable management, and basically the key to how to get your system to close properly with the back on. Yeah, you kind of just have to look at where do all your cables go, where do they need to go. For example, the front panel might actually come back around in here, so that's something you're going to want to think about when putting together the system. Yeah, I'm just quickly updating you. I ran the SATA cable here. This part of the case is where the drives are going to connect to, so you want to run one SATA power there. If you are connecting fans with Molex, run a part of your Molex cable through the back as well. You want to minimize how many cables run on the back of the system, just because you do have to get a thin little cover over top of everything, and it can be quite difficult otherwise if you if you have to squish stuff. But anyways, this is where you're going to want to use your zip ties or tie wraps. I call them zip ties. Or actually I call them tie wraps, I don't know. But yeah, they're really small, they're included. These are half decent. Ideally, you would use stronger ones that you buy yourself, but I mean, these get the job done, and that's kind of all that really matters at the end of the day, is whether or not you get good cable management, and this generally does everything I need it to. You want to make sure the cables are relatively spread out. You don't want them clumped into a ball, so this is actually pretty decent. It's not too tight, not too loose. Generally, people like to crank them tight. That's one option. I'm not going to here. I think this is plenty tight because it's not a good tie wrap. I'm not cutting it all the way at the end, but yeah, anyways, that's not too important. Cut it however you like. And now we've got the motherboard. I plugged in the CPU power already. Yeah, now we're just going to be working on our front panel connectors here. So we've got the 3 basic cables here for connecting, or do we have 4? I guess we have 4. Lucky us, we got a reset button there as well. We got the 4 gray cables. We're going to separate them from the other front panel connections. And now we're just going to take a look at the front of the system and how we'd like to go about cable managing it. So for example, alright, we can either run them here, this part here in the case, run it underneath the motherboard, connecting it to the front panel. Actually, no, on this motherboard here, we're going to run everything under. Alright, now that we've got the back open and we're doing the cable management, this is kind of how I've done my cable management here, just making sure this comes on camera. But yeah, so basically, kind of as I was mentioning, I just wrapped tie wraps around everything. I routed the front panel cables to the front panel down here, and I just kind of got everything to kind of fit, sort of. Yeah, I'll show you everything, and the biggest thing is that kind of I was stressing earlier is that you really need to make sure that everything can move and be flattened down, because you have a thin side panel here that needs to go on the system. So as you can see, like, just on its own, it's bulging up here, just from the cables down here. Yeah, I had to run extra SATA cables here. And if you don't have black SATA cables, grab a marker, make them black. And at least for the front part, it just makes the aesthetics a lot nicer, so that's what I did there. Hooked up our USBs, and also added an SSD off camera. But yeah, now that that's done, you just want to make sure that it's not too much of a squeeze to get the back panel on. And I believe we're good to go there. Back panel is on. You kind of saw the cable management. There's nothing special there. I don't really have any tips or tricks. Just make sure that the wires are spread out. Yeah, all I'm doing is putting these back thumb screws in. And the next thing that we can do is probably, well, here, let's just flip it over and we'll see what we have to work with here. Let me flip it towards you guys. There. So now all we have left to work with is, you see we got the front panel done there. Everything's kind of in place. We got the fans done. You can see the cable management here. It doesn't look super duper pretty. Like, I'll probably open it back up to get this one wire done a little better. But yeah, that's just the basics. It's kind of make sure everything's in the back, and I was mentioning like your CPU and stuff. Like, it's easy to manage them there. But yeah, that's pretty much the system there. Next thing to do is to install our graphics card. So what I've got here is a Radeon RX 580 4GB video card. Yeah, it's a dual fan. They run really hot, these cards. Yeah, it's a 4GB model, not the 8GB. It doesn't make a huge difference, but as you can see, the SATA cables are nicely covered up. They look black, so it just helps with the aesthetics. But actually, before oh my god, I'm getting ahead of myself. Before that, before you put any video cards in, get your memory and install that into the motherboard. So I'll be right back. Just going to grab our memory. Alright, for memory, I've got a couple options here. I'm going to be using 8GB modules of DDR3 registered memory. And obviously, you at home would, of course, have a big tray of memory just like this. So you're going to go there and grab some DDR3 registered memory. Or, obviously, just order it on AliExpress is what I would recommend, because maybe you don't have a huge tray like this sitting at home waiting to be used, and most likely not. But yeah, we're going to grab two 8GB modules here. I'm going to put these ones back, or I'll just move this to the side. But yeah, registered memory is the way to go with the system. It's really cheap. AliExpress, I think you can get them for about $2 a gig. So, well, that's here in Canada anyways, what it works out to. So, what we're getting we're getting 16 gig of RAM for like 40 or 50 bucks. So yeah, that's really good value for money in my opinion there. But yeah, it really depends on what you can get and what is available for you and all that kind of stuff. So you just pop the memory slots, memory in there, make sure that the clips are all put in place. And for the X79 platform, you put the most outer DIMM slots in first. Or just check the manual or something if it comes with one that's in English, or there's always Google Translate, but there's also trial and error. Yeah, one thing I will mention, these motherboards do not come with CMOS batteries, so you need to buy your own CMOS battery and put it in the motherboard. So I already got all that taken care of when I put the motherboard together off camera. But yeah, now we're going to grab our graphics card here and carefully line it up and click it into place there. There we go. We heard that snap. It is in place. I will get the two screws here for, how do I put this? For screwing in the graphics card. So we're gonna get that taken care of here. And kind of as I did in the beginning of the video, I took out the back PCIe cover already, so I didn't need to try to wiggle it off with all those components on the motherboard there. That's something that I'm gonna make sure I do every time now, because it really minimizes the risk of damaging parts. And kind of pointing out the same thing again, I have the power supply facing up so that it takes the hot air from the graphics card through the power supply and out. Yes, it's not ideal for the power supply to be getting hotter, but at the same time, it's kind of like, if it shaves 5 degrees off the graphics card, I'm happy with it. Yeah, I guess you're running a lot hotter air through your power supply, but if it's any half decent, 80 plus, it should be perfectly fine. You're not running it above 70% usage, so yeah, everything should be really good there. The next thing you'll want to do is grab your PCIe power. So this one here had two 6+2s, so basically 8 pins. So we're just going to plug in one of our 8 pins here, like so. Get it lined up, get the little clip on there. and then we're going to plug that into the graphics card. Yeah, here we go. It's a little bit tricky. Sometimes there's a lot of tension on the wires, so it really, yeah, it really varies. There we go. It's clipped in there. One thing I like to do with these, what are they called? These power cables here, is take a little bit of, you might have some of this wiring that came with your power supply to keep all the power supply cables in. I like to take a little piece of that on the end, wrap it around the end of the cable that we're not going to be using. Just wind it up a couple times, and then take my scissors, cut off the extra here. And nice old scissors, probably older than me, but anyways, cut them off there, and now it's nicely cable managed. Now you'll notice you have a bunch of cables down here. Same kind of deal. You can take the remaining, I guess, bunch of your, this is not string, but I don't know what you'd call it, twist tie or something. And you can take all your cables that you have remaining that you're not going to be using to plug anything in, get them all in to like a bunch. It can be a little tricky, obviously, because they're cables. They move, well, they kind of expand and stuff. And you want to, this is not going to look good on camera, but yeah, you want to get your twist tie around there. Carefully, of course, so you don't break anything, but it's nothing to break here, so it's just wires. But yeah, you want to get it around all of your cables. This is tricky. Alrighty. Yeah, there's no perfect answer for cable management. I like to manage it as much as possible. Like, I'm not super picky where it's like everything needs to be done like to perfection, but I do like having a clean build, and especially when I sell these systems, like having the cable management done really well, I think is always a bonus, because it shows that you are a professional. You know what you're doing. You take pride and you take care into whatever you're building. And I think even for yourself, if you're building a system, I think it's important that you take the time and effort when you are building it to really make it nice for yourself. Because it's like, whether it's your first PC or whatever PC, it's kind of like, this has a nice glass side panel, so when you do look in, I think you want to look at something that you're kind of proud of putting together. So it's just my thoughts there. Again, the extra twist ties, take it, cut it, and you're good to go. So this cable here, just bend this joint a little bit, make sure everything's in there. But yeah, there you go. Cable management's done. We have extra cables here for attaching a hard drive. I did put an SSD in while off camera. It was a little tricky because the fan was here, so I had to bend a couple things. But yeah, overall, this is build complete. X79 Atermiter motherboard, Intel Xeon E5 2650 V2, 16 gig of RAM. I will try 32 gig on this motherboard, see how it performs. 500 watt EVGA power supply, 80 plus rated, and yeah, we added 2 additional fans. And I guess while I'm speaking, I will close up the back cover here. But yeah, overall, it's a really nice build. If I was living like somewhere where I didn't have access to the new Ryzen systems and stuff, this would be a really good like option for building a system. You can get these Atermiter motherboards with NVMe, with one NVMe slot on it. I thought I ordered it with it. It didn't come with it, so clearly I must have ordered the wrong board. But yeah, it's a nice build. Some of the motherboards you can get USB 3.0. I was cheap. I saved a couple bucks. Just wanted 2.0. I'd recommend when you're getting yours, get 3.0. Get the NVMe slot. The NVMe drives are really cool to have. The boot times aren't going to be much different than a SATA SSD, but they do offer a lot faster transfer speeds. If you're going to do anything like video editing and stuff where you want to copy large files, like you've got 8 cores, 16 threads to work with. I mean, hey, why not do a little bit of like work on it, do some video editing, or even like gaming and streaming and stuff. And that, yeah, it's just a really nice build. Maybe in another video, if you guys want, you can leave a comment and ask if I can do like benchmarks or something on the system. I could run probably Fortnite, Apex Legends, and maybe PUBG on the system. I already have a whole bunch of videos recorded with this exact same hardware. So yeah, just let me know what you guys are interested in seeing, and I'll make videos for that. And yeah, I tried to speak as best as I could, but I just got braces, and well, let's just say it's interesting there. I'll put the side cover on here. You can turn it up there, get an idea of what it looks like, and then I will be ending the video there. But yeah, hopefully you found this kind of interesting. Like, it wasn't a super great production quality. We could have used the white backdrop, but I didn't want to pull that out here today. But I mean, hey, I thought I'd record this. This is exactly what I would do with any of the systems I've built, or I would be building in the future as well. So that's kind of like a behind the scenes look of what kind of stuff I put together and how I go about putting it together, how I do my cable management, and those little kind of things like that. So it's kind of a background look of like all those benchmarks I do. They come off of systems like this. But there you go. You've got yourself a nice, really budget system. It's budget friendly, and it performs really well for the money. Like, I could turn it on and show you the fans. I think I'll do that. So you gotta bear with me for a second here. But yeah, having the nice one LED colorful fan makes the whole system nice. Yeah, once everything is put together, you will want to test it, obviously. But I'm just gonna make sure that. All right, I think I gotta turn the power supply on. I don't know. I think I must have plugged something in wrong, but yeah, there we go. More troubleshooting to do next. And, oh, I got my power button and reset button mixed up. But there you go. Turns on really nice. And I wonder if there'll be a postcode. I'm not too sure. I'll take the camera out of here just so I can show you what everything looks like from the side view. Yeah, it is nice, especially with that light up fan. It's not RGB, but it is light up. Yeah, you see my huge light. You can't see inside the case here, but yeah, we've got the nice red LED. That's a deep cool Gamex, like 400 or something. The RX5, yeah, you can't see through here, but anyways, that's pretty much gonna conclude the video there on our little X79 build. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out, and yeah, let me know if you want me to, one, I could do this build again with better production quality, or two, if you'd like to see more videos of where I actually show you how I go about building the systems and upgrading and setting everything up. Just let me know, and I'll do my best to deliver on that. Thanks.